Good morning, students. So, myself Dipanjali Singh, and I will teach you alternative English, as you all know, because yesterday also we conducted a class, and many of the students attended the class, but very sad that most of the students could not able to attend the class because they could not able to handle properly the apps and all. So I guess from today onwards you will be getting the video links on YouTube for all the subjects. So whatever we discussed yesterday in alternative class, since many of the students could not able to attend it, so I would just like to recall and do a kind of revision of the topics that we discussed yesterday. It's like a rough overview of the topics that we discussed yesterday. All right. So the first chapter that we discussed yesterday was a poem named as The Daffodils by William Wordsworth. So before the start of the poem, I said some things about figures of speech, as you might have remembered. Like figures of speech, like we discuss the topics like simile, metaphor, then personification, then refrain, then onomatopoeias. See, some basic figures of speech you need to know, because these figures of speech tend to be there in poems, and question may come that what figures of speech is there in the first stanza, okay, all right, or in the above stanza. So before the start of any poem, you need to understand like what are these figures of speech and what the functions that they play in enhancing the beauty of the poem. Now figures of speech are basically some kind of ornaments that are given in a poem or in a song, or in some stories also, in order to create a certain kind of rhythm and certain kind of intonation. You can say intonation means a perfect, a particular rhyme scheme, a particular kind of rhythm that creates the beauty of the poem. So it is very important to understand these things first before we go through the poem and also the proses. So first figure of speech that I would like to discuss here is simile. All right, so only just basic 4-5 figures of speech are enough to know about. So the first figure of speech is simile. See, now what does simile mean? Simile, the word comes from similar. Now as you all know that similar means which shows and kind of not exact, but kind of similarity between two things. Now whenever we say about similarity, it should be between two things or two objects. Alright, you can't make a comparison, you can't have a similarity only in one thing. So when we talk about similarity, when we draw a comparison, then it should always be between two things or two objects. Alright, so see, for an example, if I say that this example I just gave it in yesterday's class also, that if I say you are a tiger, alright, then this same sentence, if I say you are as strong as a tiger, now both the sentences, they mean the same. Alright, but for the time being, let's just keep aside you are a tiger. Let's discuss about you are as strong as a tiger. Alright, now here what are the two things that we are making the comparison? That is you and tiger. Alright, so these are the two we can say that living objects, because you means you here refers to person, and animal is also a living, it's a living animal. Alright, so here two living organisms, we are drawing the comparison between the two living organisms. Now the comparison is being shown by the word as strong as beautiful as fearless as. Alright, now what does this line mean? That you are as strong as a tiger. The strength that a tiger has, so you also has got that same kind of strength. That means you are as strong as a tiger. Alright, so here the quality of strength is shown between these two living organisms, like you and as well as the tiger. Alright, now this similar sentence, if I say directly, like you are a tiger. So you are a tiger also means the same. That means you are as strong as tiger. But there is a slight difference between these two sentences. When I say you are as strong as a tiger, here we are making indirect comparison. And this indirect comparison is made by the word as. Or we can also use like, the word like, the word as. This shows comparison between two objects. If I say, suppose you are like a tiger. Alright, so this would also mean the same. You are as strong as a tiger. You are like a tiger. So here the quality of strength is being shown between these two living organisms. Alright, so that is about the simile. So in simile, the comparison is made between two objects or two things by the word as or like. Alright, now this sentence, if I make direct comparison, like for an example, if I say you are a tiger. So what does this line signify? You are a tiger, same meaning, you are as strong as a tiger, but we are not using words like or as. Okay, I'm directly saying that you are a tiger. Suppose for an example, you are Katrina Kaif. So what does this mean? You are as beautiful as Katrina Kaif. The beauty that Katrina Kaif has, that similar beauty you also possess. Alright, so that is the difference between simile and metaphor. So simile, we make indirect comparison between two objects by the use of words like or as, whereas in metaphor we draw direct comparison. There is no such words as like or as. Alright, we just compare the two objects directly. Alright, so that is about simile and metaphor. Next, coming to the next part, we have personification. So I discussed this thing in yesterday's class also. So personification here, same thing. Personification comes from the word person or persona. Alright, so for an example, if I say that the sky is weeping. So do you really think that sky weeps? If I say the sky is crying, now what do you mean by that? The sky is crying. Does sky really cry? So that is the question that needs to be put forward. Alright, so what does this mean now? If I say the sky is weeping, now weeping, crying, these are basically qualities, which are inherent in a human being. A human being cries, a human being weeps. So when we say the sky is weeping, now the sky here is not a living person. Alright, it's not a person. But what are we doing here? We are actually giving the attributes or the qualities of a human being to a non-living thing, to a non-living object, which is not a person. That is the sky. Alright, so when the qualities of human beings or persons are given to a non-living object or thing, that is called personification. As the example says, the sky is weeping. Okay, or you can say the sky is crying. Let's take another example. If I say the wind is moving. Okay, the wind is moving. So, there is a breeze that is moving around. The wind is moving. Now, moving here is a quality that, has got connection with human beings. A human being moves, right? A human being moves, an animal moves. But if I say, the cloud is moving, the wind is moving. Now, what does this mean? The moving quality of the human beings that has been given to a non-living object. It has been given to an object. Alright, it has been given to a thing. So that is called personification. All right. So when the attributes and the qualities of human beings are given to a non-living object, all right, or a thing, that is called personification. Next is the refrain. I did tell this yesterday also. Refrain means it's a particular line which is repeated time and again in a poem. Now, what is the purpose of having a refrain? Its main idea is to highlight the main message, to give the main message to the readers, so that the reader can easily know the main idea, the main theme of the poem. So that is refrain. All right. So it happens refrain will be there only in poems. All right, because it will not be there in stories or prose, because the purpose of having a refrain is to enhance the beauty of the poem. Okay, so these are all figures of speech that actually enhances the beauty of the poem, that creates a particular rhythm in the poem. All right, so that is about refrain. So these are the 4 figures of speech that we discussed yesterday. All right, so before going through the poem Daffodils, it's very important to know about it, because we will be getting such kinds of figures of speech, and question may come as name the figures of speech that is there in the above stanza. All right, so then I did also discuss about the rhyme scheme. So you must be knowing rhyme scheme. What is a rhyme scheme? So rhyme scheme is basically a particular set of rhythm that is created in the end of each line of the poem. Okay, so we have to identify the last word of each lines. Suppose in a stanza, if you have got 4 lines, we need to check the last word of each line, and we need to check whether the words rhyme, whether they sound similar with each other. Suppose if, for an example, in the first line the word is there cloud, all right, the last word is cloud, and in the third line if the last word is there as crowd, as we discussed yesterday, cloud, crowd. Now see, these 2 words, they sound similar. All right, so they will be having the same rhyme scheme. Then if suppose in second and fourth line the last word rhyme the same, if they sound the same, then they will rhyme similar. All right, so in that way we will be having rhyme scheme as A, B, A, B. So we need to give this small letter alphabets. All right, A, B, A, B. So likewise we need to find out the rhyme scheme of that particular stanza, which is very, very important, and question comes, all right, in 1 mark, that what is the rhyme scheme of this above stanza. So these are basic things that you are supposed to know, all right, while going through the poem. So it will be helpful in other poems also. When you go through other poems also, these things will definitely come up. All right, so for today I think it will be enough. All right, in the next class, if possible, you do one thing. While I dictate or while I narrate the things, you keep noting it down in your copies. All right, because after some days what will happen, you will forget everything. So it is really advisable for you to note it down, like whatever I discuss, all right, in the class, like in this kind of online class. All right, so hope to see you in the next class. So have a great day, and thank you very much.